Hello and welcome, internet, to and back to something Z, and Pokémon, a worldwide cultural phenomena that has taken the world by storm. And when people think of it, most of the time they think of the cutie Molgas and the sweet Igglybuffs. But what some people don't think about is that even from the very start of Pokémon, it has been horrifying. Just blatantly simple, it's been horrifying. Such as how in one of the very first American ads, the first 150 get crushed to death just so a bus driver can trap them all, and how PETA just made them all bloody and made them fight to the death in imma. Anyways, I just kinda wanted to talk about some of the dark entries in the Pokédex, because why not? Kinda mainly because I wanted to go with the flow in one of these videos, and just kinda wanted to see where this would end up, because currently I am reading directly what's off my script, and I am saying to wing this whole thing as we go. And if I'm being 100% honest, I really probably shouldn't be telling you this, but it's kind of too late, so. And now I'm just mainly just breaking the fourth wall and kind of just fighting myself. Anyways, moving on, grab a stool and listen to me talk about dark Pokemon entries.
Subscribe to Something Z, and hit the bell button to get notifications whenever this loser uploads.
Okay, I don't think it's a surprise that most ghost types would be creepy or just kind of disturbing, since they're ghosts. And it just kinda goes along with the theme. But you would think that a game for like 10-year-olds wouldn't be so open about the fact that so many children get kidnapped, such as with the Pokemon Drifloon.
It is whispered that any child who mistakes Drifloon for a balloon and holds onto it could wind up missing.
And it doesn't really get better when it becomes an adult.
It grabs people and Pokemon and carries them off somewhere. Where do they go? Nobody knows.
So if you didn't learn from Pennywise and you need a reminder, never trust balloons that you never owned, or you're either going to get murdered or you're just going to disappear with the quote, "Nobody knows." So I don't know, you'll go somewhere nobody wants to go, like Idaho, which I just found out while writing the script is the most boring state in the US. So, the more you know. Then you get some other ghost types like Mimikyu, that is the living embodiment of the ugly barnacle.
It's called the Ugly Barnacle. Once there was an ugly barnacle. He was so ugly that everyone died. The end.
Aw, but it's not that ugly. Okay, never mind, it's debatable, but it is trying its best, with the reason it's dressing like a Pikachu being that it's so popular, it tries to look just like them. So kids, learn from Mimikyu. If no one wants to be your friend and they just think you're ugly, just change. Change for them. And if you think you're fine,
Everyone died.
Anyways, we also got Palossand that just straight up pulls people into the sand and just kind of watches them suffocate, then they drink their souls. And speaking of souls, a lot of different Pokemon kind of relate to souls in different shapes and forms. Such as how Magearna is called the artificial Pokemon that was created hundreds of years ago.
This is its form from almost 500 years ago. Its body is nothing more than a container. Its artificial heart is the actual life form. It functions thanks to its artificial soul. The vivid decoration is proof that it was presented as a gift to royalty.
So that begs the question, is the soul in the heart? And if that's the case, why is this artificial and called a container? So does that mean Magnemite has a heart and a soul? Are you gonna sit here and tell me that this thing has a soul, but we call this the fake artificial one? Or better yet, what does it mean to have an artificial soul? Is there a difference between the two? Or the only difference is that there's no difference between them, and it's just how we perceive them, which means nothing? Anyway, Spiritomb is exactly 108 spirits fused together, with there being bad souls inside them as well, with them all getting in trouble to the point where they all get sealed within a rock, and let's say every Spiritomb you can encounter is a whole nother batch of souls, and the shiny encounter rate is 1 out of 4,096. So that would mean for a creature made out of over 100 different souls to be a different color, that would mean 442,368 different people would need to die and get sealed within a rock for it to be different. And that's saying that not every soul gets put into a Spiritomb, since apparently there's an age limit, since apparently the Pokemon Phantom is just the spirits of children that have died lost in the woods. So if you, the person watching this, is outside, I know, crazy, and got lost in the woods, if you are 18 and under, you will turn to a tree ghost that would be homies with Casper the Ghost, with a chance that you will grow up and become a more vicious version of the Lorax. But instead of, giving a warning, it just straight up murders people. That would have made the Lorax a lot faster. Just imagine, the Onslaught shows up and he just chops down the first Truffula tree. Then the second hits the ground, this giant tree monster grabs you and devours you. And after it's done eating you, it just kinda chills, vibes, and hangs out with the bear that loves to swallow butter. But if not that, and you get gathered, you can join in a collection of spirits, with you losing your sanity because there is definitely no way you will keep your sense of self with the other 107 different souls that inhabit the same body? Spirit? Rock? Whatever it is. Okay, let's move on from the concept of souls, or at least human souls, for a quick moment, and talk about literally anything else. Like we could talk about the Pokemon who loves the tears of children, a Pokemon who uses mostly the bones of orphans for their nests. Some are just kind of a living bear trap, but don't worry, they smile when they get those cute electrical charge, so it's cute and adorable, and so there's nothing to worry about. So just send your 10-year-old child out into the wilderness without, money, kind of any self-protection, and just kind of let them be. And after a week, they'll become the best of the best, with them being able to beat out people who have been training for years. So that begs the question, what are these children doing inside of our houses? Then there's also some children that become research assistants, and there's also some children that go around the world just kind of taking pictures, becoming world-renowned artists. So you hear that, little Timmy, get the f*** out of my house, you filthy freeloading parasite, go become something, you waste of trash. If you don't, I will personally... Okay, I'm cool. Anyways, imagine you're a 10-year-old and you owned a stuffed animal. Let's say his name is Tetsufer, the third native to the land Plushville, Tennessee. He is a noble bear, raised by his parents, the current rulers of Plushville, after his father led a coup against the past ruler, which was his elder brother who was a tyrant, that was leading his subjects to poverty while he lived a life of luxury. But Tetsufer wanted more in life. He wanted freedom, so he explored the small world he saw himself in. So he met horses, race cars that kept slamming into each other and fighting giant hands. But what he cared about most was a giant named Sophia, who seemed to care for him more than she cared about anyone else, with him feeling only one emotion, which was love. Anyways, eventually the bear got thrown away and donated to Goodwill, and with the pure malice and rage the bear felt, it turned into a Pokemon that hides in alleys and tries to hunt for whoever threw him out, which was most likely the mom who donated him, or the girl just kind of lost him on a family trip. But anyways, that doesn't matter. The new Pokemon will hunt in dark alleys. And since this is a whole species, imagine how many toys get thrown away. Actually, don't imagine how many Pokemon there are. Imagine how many people are on the hit list from their old toys now wanting to come after them. And that's not even to take into the account that the previous form of this Pokemon is just a creature that survives solely on suffering. So don't trust its smile or cuteness when you use it. Think about how it kind of looks like the SpongeBob ghost if it was covered in black goo. Think about how it loves suffering to the point where it just feeds off of it. Then talking about suffering, we get to Pokemon that enjoy the sound of children's tears. It's just like music to them. Better than Queen, better than the Beatles, better than my favorite band, the Wiggles. These Pokemon get their blood rushing when they hear Lil Timmy get his toe stubbed, and when Lil Susie gets a little too close to her Uncle David. Okay, now that I've done at least a somewhat dive into this world, let's just do a speedrun of how different ones could just kill you if they found you worthy of being their prey. Steps on you, punches and jiggles, but on the bright side, when they're done murdering you, they'll get a round of applause. If you're too close, you will immediately die from the inside out from just pure heat from this Pokemon. It's a Venus flytrap. Do I really have to go on? It's just really heavy for how small it is. I know it's not directly going to kill you, but imagine this falling from a story. You will be dead. It'll just straight up stab you using its giant spear of a tail, and if you are unlucky and you didn't immediately die, it will inject poison into you, and most likely you'll be weakened to the point where you are easy to just eat straight up. This one is just straight up a mafia boss, but instead of using a gun, it will instruct its men to poo on your car. Sure, it's not death, but it might as well be. Well, I mean, imagine 20 birds attacking you at once. You could probably die from that, right? I mean, like, 20 birds kind of pecking your tongue. I mean, kinda. I kinda see it. And don't get me started on this giant kaiju modes that these beasts can all mostly go into. And it's already bad enough that these creatures are big enough to, in one step on multiple families, a few schools, little Timmy, and my will to live. But there are some that will get enhanced. This one is just straight up standing on a giant ball of fire that I would bet you money would burn anyone who's just in the stadium, or at the very least blind them for, seeing a giant ball of fire that is big enough to carry Bugs Bunny, who is now 20 stories tall. This one just gets a gun to just snipe that little rat to oblivion. That again, since this lizard is 34 stories tall, it will crush the Pokemon even if it has bad aim. It's just that big. Don't you dare take that out of context. This living pile of garbage enhances its pollution ability to the point that its gas it breathes will seep into your bones. Again, all the people in these stadiums are dead. They have super cancer at this point. They will be a carbon footprint after 10 seconds of just breathing. Then we get this portal straight from hell that will create the sounds of your loved ones so that it will lure you in. And that mouth supposedly just leads you straight to either the pearly white gates or an eternal stay at the pits of hell. And I would count that as death because I would think that being in hell would be counting as death. Then we got this red crab that would put Mr. Krabs to shame, with this kaiju not only having a giant claw that in its normal form has 10,000 horsepower, which I'm pretty sure isn't used in this context, but imagine getting crushed by 10,000 horses. Anyways, moving on from the giant claw that will turn the Eiffel Tower into the just FL, it spews bubbles that are so acidic that apparently you just melt away. I have no idea why a lot of these have problems with the Pokemon breathing in some way that it will just kill people, but just don't let them breathe. But then you get this creature that's so poisonous, it's not safe from its own poison. So now it's just on a rampage, with it infecting its brain. And I would assume that it's just a normal poison, but it's a lot funnier to assume that it's just LSD. Anyways, it goes around on a rampage and it sweats out the poison that will have a high chance that it will get into the water supply in some way. Because again, it's a giant lizard. And because it's a giant lizard in its sweat. And again, it doesn't specify if it kills people, so let's just imagine it uses it to get very trippy. Reveal this in the next Pokemon game, Game Freak, and let the protagonist be Snoop Dogg on his way to be the 420th champion. Then you got this walking Chad that can carry ships to the port, and apparently each punch is the power of a bomb. I don't know what type of bomb, I was just told bomb. And when I was writing this video, I tried to find the conversions to figure out what the amount force needed to lift a boat to a punch would be, which was a USS Gerald R. Ford.
Looking up its weight, then I tried to figure out what was the strongest bomb, which was the Tsar Bomba.
Then tried searching how much it would take to lift a ton, then how many joules it took to lift a pound, then I was planning on doing the conversions there. Then I was going to compare the two numbers, then pull my pants down, then do the marker in Spanish, while Family ABC in German backwards, while Family 17 crying in the corner out pure fear what I'd become, with the amount of intelligence I have.
But anyways, even if it's not the strongest bomb, it'll probably be the extent of. Okay, finally, moving along onto the bright side. It's not like they've added anything else that would be able to kill people in plain sight that no one really talks about. But you know what? Never mind. But I'm still ending this video here. If you want me to make another video kinda like this, just tell me. And I'll maybe do it. And if you enjoyed this suffering, subscribe and like, because I need social validation for what I've gone through. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you next time on Something Z.
That's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more, click on the video to true left.